Greetings and welcome to Connecting with Intent Show. I'm your host Muhammad Awais. On this episode, we have a very amazing personality. He's the global talent management leader, enabling large complex organizations to execute their business strategy by identifying and developing high potential talent. Mark Jeffries. Please join me to give a warm welcome to our guest, Mark Jeffries. Mark, welcome.
Hello, and thank you for having me on today.
Let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Who were you surrounded with that inspired you to do what you do today?
I grew up in the Detroit, Michigan area in the United States, and I watched what happened to the auto industries as competition from Japan came into America and whatnot. And what I found was there wasn't very strong leadership back in those days. So when I joined my first company, I started working in the process improvement area. And what I found was that in order to really improve the way an organization works, I had to not only focus on process improvement, but look at the culture of the organization. And then that led me to studying the leaders, what type of leadership is required and who were those leaders. So that kind of led me from doing process improvement work to identifying and developing current and future leaders within these large, complex organizations.
What is your higher purpose in life?
Well, I'm not sure if I have a higher purpose, but one of the things that I really enjoy and I really like helping is helping people move forward in their career. And I find that I help organizations in the same fashion, right? Helping people get to where they're going from a career standpoint. And when you have people that are in the appropriate place for their capabilities and their desires, they perform at a very high level, which inherently helps the performance of the organization that they're part of.
What have been top three greatest challenges that you have had to overcome?
Well, I think it's three of the biggest challenges for me personally. One is fitting in. I'm an introverted person, but I'm also very intuitive. So oftentimes I'm thinking about things that are a little bit further down the road than what other people are thinking about at the moment. So when I'm talking to people, they're kind of like, "What are you talking about?" So one is fitting in. And then that leads to having confidence in myself. It's kind of hard when you're talking about something and everybody else is looking at you like you're crazy, to have confidence in yourself. And then of course, once I kind of had confidence in myself, is being able to stand against the wind when you're looking at something that's down the road, and most people aren't talking about it. There's a lot of resistance and there's a lot of pushback from folks of, why are you talking about that? Why, what is in it for me as an organization or as an individual? So really kind of, it's kind of the maturation process of believing in myself, believing in the capabilities I have and the skills that I have, to be able to stand up and think that I can help the organization move forward.
What is your greatest failure story? What did you learn and how did you recover from it?
Well, one was I was with an organization that was going through an enormous amount of transformation that I was involved in, and I was involved in doing, the leadership development and the change management work. And myself and the leader of that organization were not seeing eye to eye on what needed to be done. So I eventually, was asked to leave the organization. And that was a very, very stressful time for me. And what I learned from that was, um, after sitting back and assessing what took place and talking to some of my mentors, that I was proposing what were valid ideas and valid strategies to help this organization move forward. So it wasn't on the side of what I was proposing. It was probably more on how was I networking within the organization, how was I being connected to the leadership team so that I could help influence them. That's the area that I needed to be working on. And so since then, I've been working with the senior leaders in organizations to help influence the direction when they're thinking about doing transformations.
What is the most impactful book you have read and what did you learn from it?
Well, I've read a lot of books. I'm a voracious reader. You can probably see over my shoulder here the bookcase. This is one of many in my house. But I think Lencioni's Five Dysfunctions of Team is one of a fundamental book on leadership. And I think it's the topic. There's many salient points in that book, but the whole discussion around trust. If you don't have trust in the organization, it's really hard to get anything else going. And so that was a really powerful book, and for my understanding of how do you make teams in a large organization work, and the foundation on trust.
What are your goals for the next 12 months?
Well, I'm kind of at a fork in the road, so to speak. I am trying to decide whether I want to join another large organization again, or do I want to? I have a small consulting company on the side, and do I want to focus more on that? And I'm kind of torn between the two. I like I joke, tongue in cheek sometimes, that I have to work with an organization that is big enough to have the challenges to do some of the work I do. So that kind of points me towards the large, complex organizations. But I like the freedom and the influence that you have of running your own company. However, on that side, business development is always a challenge. So there's pros and cons to both sides, and I'm trying to figure out which path I want to take.
What advice you will give to younger yourself?
One would be find mentors and coaches. I'm kind of a self-made person. I said earlier that I'm an introvert. So I never really reached out to other people to find, and I, kind of learned and taught myself what I know by doing. I've worked a lot of my career in operations, whether it be in the airline industry or heavy manufacturing or biotech. Um, and there's no reason for younger people to have to learn all of this on their own. If they find some mentors and coaches that can help them, point them in the right direction, it certainly makes life a whole lot easier.
How can we support you?
Well, I think how you can support me is I really enjoy learning from other thought leaders around the globe, and the talent, and I use that word broadly, talent space, whether it be talent acquisition, comp and benefits, leadership development. I like engaging in conversations with thought leaders across the globe to learn, what are they doing, what are they seeing that's working and not working. Because as humans, it's a pretty complex area of the business. A lot of times we want to really focus on what can be measured, and sometimes the things that work are really hard to be measured. And I would love to engage in conversations with other people that are working in this space.
What would you say about your guest appearance on the show?
I find it very interesting. This is kind of one of the first times that I've done a live podcast. I find it's a great format. I would love to engage in it again and actually have more than a kind of a scripted dialogue, more of a free form dialogue about a particular topic with some other thought leaders.
Thank you so much for your kind words. What closing thoughts would you like to share with our listeners?
Well, I think, on the topic that I have some expertise in, the talent space is going through a tremendous amount of change. The length of time people are working with companies. And I think a lot of that has to do as we transition from being, industrial organizations to knowledge workers and tech organizations. What I'm finding is more and more of the value add is coming from the individual themselves and the capabilities that they have developed. So one, make sure you're always growing your skills. Never, kind of sit back on your laurels. Two, and I think as you look forward, as I said, the value you bring to a company is, what you bring, the knowledge. And that is leading to the growth of, the gig economy, the growth of remote work. And a lot of that is changing how we are going to work.
Thank you so much, Mark, for sharing your wisdom with us today on the behalf of Connecting with Intent community and our entire team. We really appreciate you. This is Muhammad Wes. Until the next episode, all good wishes.
Well, thank you very